Hi, this is Ashish Kuthaila at the DevOps Enterprise Summit in San Francisco in 2017. And it's my pleasure to have Cindy and Jim here with us from Nationwide. Welcome to the conference.
Thank
Thanks.
And you were here speaking about your experience at Nationwide, at what you've been doing with DevOps. So love for our viewers to learn a little bit more about that. Let's start with a very brief description of what Nationwide does and what your roles out there are.
So Nationwide, you've probably all seen the Payne Manning commercials. You're aware that we sell auto insurance.
My son knows them. He's 10 years
Yeah,
old.
yes, exactly. But we're way more than just auto insurance. I'm actually support Nationwide Financial, which is the financial arm of Nationwide, and we have 457 retirement plans, 401ks, life insurance, annuity. We're number one in a whole lot of things outside of just auto insurance. So we're number one in pet insurance, corporate-owned life insurance, farm insurance.
Right.
So yeah, we're a large financial services company.
Financial services company.
Based in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm a leader of a tech consulting group inside of Nationwide. It's a shared services organization. We service all of our 200 nationwide agile lines that do all of our delivery.
Right.
And I'm a solutions architect supporting our digital portfolio in Nationwide Financial.
Seems like a large IT organization behind the business.
Very large.
Quick question before we dive into the specifics: are you all, concentrated in Columbus, Ohio, with the IT teams, or it's
That's
kind
a
of
good
global?
question. Mostly, it's the IT delivery teams are in Columbus, Ohio. We do have a few other locations: Scottsdale, Arizona, Des Moines, Iowa, and Harleysville, Pennsylvania are primary other ones.
We'll be sure to address how do you, tackle that challenge.
Right.
So what's your daily job like? How are you helping Nationwide down the DevOps journey? Like, what challenges are you trying to solve?
So 2017 in particular, which is what our talk was kind of focused on, was anchored around, we ran these groups of experiments through 2 model lines. So we picked 2 higher performing teams in the organization and decided we're going to run a whole host of experiments through those lines so that we could gain learnings and figure out what are successes, what are failures, and how do we scale the successes across the 200 lines, which is a theme that you'll hear over and over again. Everything we do is
across 200
how do we do it across 200 lines?
Right.
Yep.
If you got optimize one area, that's great, but that's really not how Nationwide works. We optimize everything.
Right. And your daily challenges, like what keeps you awake at night?
For me, there's an organizational challenge we have with our scale, and especially with our CI/CD pipeline. It's spread across multiple organizations, multiple application owners. And although I'd say we have a really strong DevOps leadership team in place, navigating the organization and trying to see the value stream throughout the different silos is difficult sometimes. But I think my team and Carmen Diardo's team, who has been speaking in the last few years, we really try to bridge that gap a little bit. And so I have a consulting team. He has some DevOps experts that he employs, and we're out basically talking to all of our business units, to all of our infrastructure and operations folks, to our run services, trying to say, okay, that's how we've done it in the past, but here's how we really should be doing it if we're thinking about speeding things up.
So I have the right brains here. I'd like for you to describe a little bit, from an architectural point of view, how your CI/CD pipelines look like for our viewers. And again, if something is proprietary, you can keep proprietary. But in general, kind of, how have you built this out? How can other people kind of learn from you?
So we do. Luckily, there's not a ton of variation. So across the 200 teams that we talk about, almost everyone's on standard tooling. So we have a standard agile management backlog tool that's feeding story cards into lines to work on. Lines are checking into Git their code. They're testing with they're building with Jenkins, deploying with the Urban Code Suite. What am I missing? Monitoring is New Relic, Splunk. I probably missed 3 or 4 things in there. Testing is our automation testing is a Ruby Cucumber practice, so we've heavily embraced that.
We've got a couple variations for some of our technologies, so you'll see something like Informatica as a different, a way of doing development in terms of the IDE and not being able to merge very well. So, I mean, we've definitely got the pockets of challenges, but for the most part, the tooling is pretty consistent.
So that brings up a question in my mind. Part of doing DevOps, especially done at the grassroots level, and individual developers and testers, is they like the freedom of choosing their own tools. They like the freedom of downloading something, maybe open source, or maybe buying something for their team or their individual use and experiment. That's part of like DevOps, to figure out how to make things to do better. But then the challenge at the enterprise level is you can't have 300 different kinds of tools. It's hard to standardize. And you talked a little bit about standardizing these across. So how do you balance this, and how do you manage this?
So I'll take that a little bit. I think the best way to do it is pick best of breed tools the developers want and make it completely frictionless for them to use it.
Right.
And if you do that, I think they will come to the tool even though they might have a slight preference towards something else.
Right.
It's a great tool. We've made it free. We've made it frictionless. It's available. They use it. If you put barriers in their way,
Absolutely.
then they'll start nitpicking on this tool slightly better than that. But I really think
Do
it's
you
about
give them a choice between a couple of tools for, say, a particular function like testing, or is it generally very standard?
So in general, because we're trying to scale across 200
Right.
lines, we don't have a lot of choices.
Right.
But I will say we do encourage that if they really believe something is a better tool, so we want best of breed tools.
Right.
If someone comes in and says that's no longer best of breed, this other tool is, we should go look at it.
And we actually have a very mature process for bringing new tools in. We have any associate, any developer, any tester can fill out basically a request and say, I want to do some research on tool X. And
so you do give them the choice of picking something, working with them to evaluate it,
Absolutely.
that decision.
And that research request gets visibility at a larger group that says, okay, hey, look, we've had 3 people ask for research on tool X. We should maybe consider it as a standard.
It makes a lot of sense. So do you mind sharing with our viewers a little bit of the results you have seen this year versus last year? We have made incremental progress, because it's always a journey towards continuous improvement.
I think you should tell our Hurricane Harvey story.
Sure. So I finished our talk with.
I am from Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is a perfect story. I finished our talk with what does all of our progress really mean for our business this year, and it's a story about when Hurricane Harvey hit and it turned into more of a flooding event versus a wind event. Our business realized right away that our online claims process was not optimized.
It's going to get flooded also.
Right, exactly. There were going to be a lot of claims, high volume, and the claims were going to be flooded cars. There were going to be a lot of flooded cars, and our online process was not optimized for that type of claim. When they realized that, they immediately came to IT. Within an hour, business and IT had collaborated on a streamlined online experience, reducing the steps by 40% for the members. And within an 8-hour business day, they were able to implement the changes and deploy them all to production with 0 downtime. So that would have been impossible a year ago. That probably most teams would have taken 90 days to go through a process like that, which, as you know, in the case, would not have been worth even doing, because in 90 days, exactly.
So it's really about an inception of an idea or a business need that went to production in less than 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's all about business agility.
Yeah.
All about business agility.
And I love it because, I mean, this is, for example, we heard about the crisis at Key Bank, really accelerating their approach. I mean, in the case of Hurricane Harvey, you don't see it coming until it's here, that you need that agility, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there can be events beyond your control, just like Harvey, where you don't have control, but you have to react.
You have to react
before the customers react. So a great example. What are you guys looking forward to in accomplishing next year? What's your vision like? What do you want to improve in the next year? You're here talking to us again.
So Cindy mentioned we're a large organization, and the CI/CD pipeline is becoming a pain point. And really, it's not just CI/CD. Take business idea to monitoring and production. If you look organizationally, all the tooling that makes up, we actually hit like 3 CIOs,
4 CIOs,
4 CIOs, 5 or 6 areas underneath those CIOs. So when you try to drive continuous improvement across that value stream, it's very hard, because everyone has siloed views of the tools that they own. And when you want these tools to integrate in new and different ways, it's very hard to do.
So that's your
challenge.
Absolutely.
Well, we look forward to hearing that story next year, and how you solve that. I'm sure a lot of our viewers want to do the same thing. want to thank you very much for joining us here today, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. This is Ashish Kuthaila from DevOps Enterprise Summit 2017. Thank you for joining us.